Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmed Anwar bin Abdul Rahim. For EDU550 movie review on child education psychology, I have decided to do it on The Babadook. The Babadook is an Australian film made by an Australian filmmaker Jennifer Kent in 2014. The Babadook is a movie about a mother who has lost her husband in a car accident while on her way to give birth to her child. Now the child has become disturbed and has problems in having functional relationships around the people around him because of a monster under his bed. It is a fairy tale of a single mother named Emilia who is haunted by the death of her husband and battles the exhaustion of taking care of her own son, Samuel. The Babadook is categorized as a contemporary horror by film reviewers, stating it as a metaphor for both the terrors of childhood and as well parenting. In this case, in this movie, a single parenting. The Babadook is emotionally engaging, consistently gripping, as well as a constructed film that is made very well for the audience. The movie progresses with Emilia trying to express her contradictory feeling toward her own son, propelling the plot forward. I chose to do a movie review about The Babadook because it is a movie that has shown to have scenes of the difficulty in the relationship between a mother and a son, especially when a woman becomes a mother and is expected to raise the child alone. The discussion around handling a child by yourself needs to be made away um, to raise awareness, because without proper knowledge in the child psychology, it will be detrimental for the child development, for the child mind. The dysfunctionality and hardship in child development will leads to more trouble and difficulty in your parenting. For the main character, Emilia, to best describe Emilia, she is physically present and emotionally absent throughout the film. She is a nurse who has recently quit her job as a children book writer and is now working at a nursery home. Emilia in the movie has shown signs and symptoms of maternal ambivalence. Ambivalence, which quite literally means having both love and hatred toward the child, toward your own child. In the movie, Emilia, the protagonist, she is unable to express her resentment or her own feelings, and is unable to accept the loss of her husband, because in the movie it is repeatedly shown that Emilia is having flashbacks and nightmares of the death of her husband, and that constant painful reminder has shown in the form of Samuel, because the conception of Samuel is because the death of her husband. So Samuel, as a character, is a 6-year-old child, which have shown significant behavioral problem. Samuel, to describe him, is a very needy child, a very constant, difficult child to deal with. I would imagine because of not having a father figure at that stage of your life is very confusing. So because of that, Samuel has made a lot of crude weaponry and toys as to use it as a coping skill, using his active imaginations. So as a child, Samuel has now become a very complicated character, and it is very troubling for both Emilia, and not just Emilia but everyone around Emilia. The narrative in the movie is literally a trauma survivor emerging from a traumatic past or event, and is consequently understood not for the Emilia's repression or suppressing of her own feeling, but it is actually an indication of how her sometimes being mad or acting out for her own self, because it prevents her from fully accepting her current reality because of not able to properly engage in a good communication way with her own child to explain the situation of the household they are in. So the relevant theoretical analysis that I would like to promote is Ivan Pavlov classical conditioning. So Ivan Pavlov classical conditioning in the movie has shown in a scene where Emilia is trying her best to read a bedtime story for Samuel. This is the Emilia's Vanex family tradition, I would say, to read a story time book for Samuel. One night after a day of tiring and constant pressure in the workplace, Emilia is forced to read a bedtime story for Samuel. So Samuel grabbed one of her book at the shelf, and it is titled Mr. Babadook. So when the mother Emilia is telling the story of the Babadook, uh, Samuel imagination start to running wild, and because Emilia constant battle against depression, she is unable to properly amend her fault at reading this scary children book for bedtime stories. So the Babadook is actually a manifestation of the anger and madness of Emilia. The accumulation of her whole resentment toward her own child is in the form of this uh, children children book, a character in a children book, because the character in the children book, the Babadook, is depicted having a cap as well as a cloak, and it's very scary for a lot of children. So Samuel preconditioned excitement when Emilia reading her bedtime stories has now changed because of Mr. Babadook scary phrases in the book. So it has unintentionally altered Samuel's perception about the Vanex bedtime stories tradition to read in the dark before sleeping. So as we all know, uh, there are unconditioned stimuli, which is the bedtime story, and it is equals to exciting a moment before you go to sleep. So the unconditioned response is usually sleeping and very content for the child lah. And so because of the book Mr. Babadook, now the unconditioned stimuli has now associated with a scary feeling. So the bedtime stories has now become something that is very fearful for Samuel. Another relevant theoretical analysis that I would like to propose is operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner. This is shown in a scene when Samuel is playing in the basement, acting out as a magician to help to imagine as a spectator the parent, his parent, which is Emilia's husband and Emilia. Samuel atypical yet dangerous playtime is interrupted when Emilia is when she is doing her chores in the house, she heard a popping noise in the basement. So she goes off towards the basement where her husband belongings are actually. So Emilia stored her husband memories kept inside the basement without telling Samuel that the collections of memorabilia of her husband is down there. Samuel always steal a key that belong to the basement accessway. So in addition to her already telling Sam not to play with dangerous weapon, because the popping sound is actually a firecracker, the pop the sound, because Samuel likes to be creative with his imagination, she forcefully grabs the basement key away from him and yells at the little boy, for going down there, because she doesn't like to be reminded of her husband lost in that way. Which Sam angrily responds, "He's my father, you don't own him." That intonation has made is actually a deciding moment in which Emilia is forced to be straightforward and yells at Samuel for doing an action that she doesn't likes. So in operant conditioning, it is so we all know that reinforcement can go both ways, because when a negative reinforcement is applied, the negative behavior is encouraged more by that which means the unlikely behavior to occur has become more reoccurring, more chances of reoccurring. Because of that, Samuel lash out against her mother action has now made Samuel more conditioned to become a rebel, fighting against his mother action, disobeying, in other words. So the moral values of the movie is, for me, I would think the importance is you have to teach your child to be very calm and teach them a lot of sympathy and understanding the ways of the way of the parenting actually works. Because without them knowing how your present is meant, it can lead to a lot of detrimental situation in the household. In the movie, Samuel and Emilia relationship constantly degrades as the movie goes. And we all know that the Babadook is a manifestation of Emilia's madness, just an imagination. And the both of them has become developed in these scary horror stories, because they are unable to properly communicate to each other what they feel and what they need to do to move on. I would say, as a parent that is having to deal with a lot of depression and grief, it should be that a parent look out for themselves, going to therapies, seeking out help, and learning everything that you can do to make your situation in the family, in the household better, even with taking care one child. The responsibility of a parent is to take care of the parent, to take care of the child in every way you can. So that is all for the Babadook movie review. Thank you very much.